Hi guys, welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is Noelle, and if you're new here, I am an actress. And this past weekend, I just had my first on-stage Shakespeare experience. I've performed Shakespearean classes before and used, classical monologues and such, but I've actually never been cast in a full-fledged production before. Every time I would audition, they tended to be auditions for more than one show at a time, and it was usually Shakespeare and something Greek. And every time I was cast in the something Greek option, I must be the most Greek-looking Italian woman in the United States. This past weekend, I got to perform in A Midsummer Night's Dream, which ironically enough is set in Greece. So I thought, in light of my first public Shakespeare performance of an entire play and not just a monologue, I would come on here and share some tips for beginning Shakespearean actors. So let's get started. Tip number 1 is to learn your Iambic pentameter. It sounds intimidating, but you don't need to know everything, okay? This is for beginners, right? We're talking for beginners. So what is Iambic pentameter? It's a big word. It's 2 words technically. 2 intimidating words for some people. Iambic pentameter is a type of metric line used in verse and poetry, right? That sounds simple enough so far, right? It has, in other words, it has a meter, it has a rhythm, and that rhythm is a pattern of unstressed and stressed syllables, right? It goes ba-dum, 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 ba-dum. And it's actually, I've been told in, I forget where, a class somewhere, that it's said to mimic the beating of a heart. Ba-dum, 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 ba-dum. It's not just a rhythm. There's a little more math involved, but if I can do it, so can you. So what does that mean? Iambic pentameter has 10 syllables per line, and each line is broken up into 5 iambic feet. And a foot is 2 syllables. It is a grouping of bottom. That's a foot. And so, each line kind of, there are exceptions, follows that ba-dum, 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 ba-dum pattern. Do you as an actor need to stress it? Probably not. People don't really talk like that. And it depends on the production. Listen to your directors. But most of the time, your natural voice, speaking the line that is written, will take on the stressed and unstressed pattern that is required. And there are exceptions. There's something called a trochaic rhythm, which is the inverse. It's not ba-dum, it's, now I'm gonna mess it up. It's ba-dum. Yeah, there you go. That's trochaic. It's the stressed one first. So there are exceptions. And I said every line has 10 syllables. There are exceptions to that as well. So learn the rules so you can break the rules, right? These are just things to be conscious of. These are things to help you find your way through your particular production. There are so many vocabulary words that you can learn when it comes to reading Shakespeare. If you ever have an opportunity to take a Shakespeare class, I so highly recommend it. I took one when I was in college, and it was a literature class, and I was a literature minor, and all of the actors in the theater department were saying, "Noelle, don't take that class. That class is terrible. The professor's such a tough grader. Nobody ever does well. It's so awful." First of all, I got a 98 in the class. Secondly, I loved it. I learned so much. Take a Shakespeare class if you can. Pay attention in your English classes. Shakespeare's poetry, right? This is verse, or sometimes it's not. Sometimes it's prose, and that's significant too. So look at it like you are an archaeologist, and the text is what you are exploring, and make choices based on what you learn in your explorations, And if you want an example, let's do an example. So like I said, I was just in A Midsummer Night's Dream, right? And I had this one part where I entered and Demetrius is following me and he's like, "Well, I rebuke you, he who loves you so." And because Hermia is not interested in him, she wants to marry somebody else, right? And she thinks he's killed him. And so she says, "Now I betide, but I should use thee worse, for thou, I fear, hast given me cause to curse. If thou hast slain Lysander in his sleep, being o'er shoes and blood, plunge in the deep and kill me too." Do you see this here? And kill me too? That is not 10 syllables, but it is its own line. So like I said, there are exceptions. And what does that mean? In our production, we chose to acknowledge that there was something missing in that line. So when I performed it, it said, "Plunge in the deep and kill me too." The sun was not so true unto the day is he to me. And, so we filled it with a sound and, kind of filled up the remaining ba-dum, 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 ba-dum that was missing from that line. Every production will be different. You might not do that. You might pause, or you might not pause. You might just keep going through. And you think about it. What does that mean for Hermia? She doesn't complete. She ends her thought before the line, before the rhythmic pattern has completed for the line. So what does that mean? What does that say about her mental state? Seeing as she thinks Demetrius has killed her lover, that might inform how she's feeling, Number 2, be cautious of punctuation. Actors, I'm going to let you in on my biggest secret as a performer. Pay attention to the punctuation. The writer chose to use punctuation for a reason. Punctuation is like the seasoning of a dish when you're cooking. It informs everything. To me, you can choose not to. You can choose not to season it the way the author intended. William Shakespeare, in this case, is not going to be in his grave like, that was an exclamation point. No, that won't happen. If you're in a professional production and you change a word, that may happen. But punctuation, you can't necessarily prove as much, but it is so helpful. Be cautious of where your full stops are. Read for the sense of what you're saying, not to get through the line, right? So, and this applies to poetry too. Don't read it like you get to the line, you get through the line, you get through the line, you get through the line. No, because that's not where your thoughts end, oftentimes. Perform or read until you get to an end symbol. That could be a period, that could be a question mark, that could be an exclamation point. And what do those things say for you? A period is a statement, a question mark. If you have a question mark, ask it. Ask a question. Make statements, ask questions, and if you have an exclamation point, you better give it a little oomph. You don't have to. But another thing to be conscious of, and this is something we talked about in the production I was just in, is when you have a full stop in the middle of a line. What does that mean? Why is it there? Why is the full stop in the middle of this pattern? What does that say for your character? And one of the things we talked about was after a full stop in the middle of a line, taking a full breath and coming in a little stronger, a little punchier, and have them build each time. So Hermia in Midsummer has a monologue where she wakes up and she has woken from this dream and she thinks a serpent has been crawling on her breast and eating her heart away. And that monologue has so many full stops in the middle of a line. Why? What does that mean? Is it because she's scared? Is it because she's upset? She looks around for her lover and he's nowhere to be found to help her and calm her down. That's upsetting too. So it can really inform your character choices. Same goes in Romeo and Juliet. In the beginning, when Juliet speaks, she has a lot of full stops in the middle of lines. However, once she's towards the end of the play, once she's, matured a little, she doesn't do that as often. So, there are insights to be gleaned from your punctuation. And my third and final tip is don't be afraid to ask questions. Odds are, if you're a beginner, your director knows this, or maybe they don't. And then they'll be even more impressed with how well you're doing when you tell them that, right? So feel free to ask questions. Every production is different. Do they want you to emphasize the rhyme, or do they want to not emphasize the rhyme? And there's reasons for doing either. To emphasize or not to emphasize. you have to ask questions and, do some research. To me, doing research is part of asking questions. There's so many resources online nowadays. Use them. You can use Know If You're Shakespeare to help guide you. You can look up what certain words mean that you don't know instantly. However, that does not mean you do not have to read the play. Read the play, read the play, read the play, read the play, read the play. Even if you're just doing it as an audition monologue, read the play. I beg of you, read the play. So feel free to ask questions. When you're a beginner, the world is your oyster. You can only learn things. And you can learn from your directors. You can learn from the other actors. But there's so much to be learned in every production. So by all means, ask questions and do research and read. If you're an actor who doesn't like reading, what are you doing? Okay, thank you guys so much for sticking around for this video. I hope it was helpful to any of you newbies out there, and I hope that you are soon performing Shakespeare to your heart's content and get cast in all your favorite roles, and I will see you guys next time. Bye!